back from our podcast the other day. Someone was saying it was really, really informative, but it wasn't like funny. You guys weren't taking the piss out of each other. So can you do that a bit more, please?
Oh God. Okay.
That's Simpsons.
That's Simpson, did it? Yeah. Me and Tom will do one tomorrow where we abuse each other.
Physically and emotionally.
Oh yeah, pants will be off in that one. Anyway, leave it to it.
Don't want to be part of that one.
Oh yeah, you're doing it. You lie, and you.
And it's like, oh, I don't want to be a part of that. What time is this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm free tomorrow.
No, I was talking to some friends the other day on Zoom and asked them what they were all doing exercise-wise, and they all ended up saying they were doing some form of yoga.
Yeah.
And they all kind of came to it for a very different reason. But it occurred to me that actually it might be worth talking about, because I kind of think that at the moment, given everything that's going on, sorry, I'm just readjusting so my face isn't so dark. Here we go.
There you are.
Thought you'd be pleased.
Okay.
I feel like I should be wearing my SPC top as well.
This is all I've got. I only brought like gym kit with me when I stayed at my dad's, so this is it. Yeah, it just occurred to me that actually a lot of people could probably benefit from yoga, and so I wrote a blog today on why everyone should be doing yoga, basically, regardless whether you're an athlete or the everyman. Yeah. So basically, what better person to get on the podcast to talk about yoga than SPC's resident yoga coach? And obviously having Michelle on here, because obviously she coaches you from a strength and conditioning point of view, but also was part of your exam process, wasn't she? She was, yes. She was. She's had a very in-depth, behind-the-scenes look at your progress. So
she literally has.
I have questions, Annette.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, from what you sent me across, because I like to be more prepared for these sorts of things.
I thought you might. That's why I gave you a heads up.
So I have written stuff down as well.
Okay, great. So I'm basically, let's kickstart a little bit of history, because we've done an introducing episode for all of our coaches who have come on board in the last few months, except yourself. So let's have a little bit of an introducing Annette. What drew you to yoga, what your history is, why you did it, kind of why you're passionate with it, and anything else that people might want to know about you.
Okay, so I first encountered yoga, I think probably about 18 years ago, I think it was. I worked for a company. I worked as a receptionist, and they actually put on yoga classes for their staff at lunchtime. And at that time, I hadn't really heard about yoga, if I was completely honest. And I went along and I did it, and I thought, oh God, I'm actually really good with it. You know, I could really do it. I was really flexible. But for me back then, it was more like a fitness class, more than understanding the actual fundamentals and the history behind yoga and what it actually does for you mentally. So I used to do it at lunchtime because I thought, yeah, I can do this. And the teacher kept saying to me, oh, you're really good. So it's a whole ego thing kicking it in. And then I kind of stopped doing it. When I left the company, I stopped doing it. I went to like the gym, did like yoga classes at the gym. Wasn't really the same thing, so there's no sort of real sort of structure course to it as much as there was when I did it at the company that I worked for. And then I went through a bereavement, and it's when I actually found yoga again. I came across a local yoga instructor, and it was then that I actually fell in love with it, because it helped me through the bereavement that I was going through. And I used it more for a mental aspect rather than a physical aspect. And that's when I started to realise what actually yoga could do for you mentally, not just physically.
So how long was that between then and wanting to teach it?
So that was back in 2007. So quite a long time ago. And then I think I kind of, through the bereavement, I kind of stopped doing it after a while. So, you know, went into a bit of a dark place, but then I came back to it again when I went through, unfortunately, another bereavement. And I think since then I learned a lot more about the yoga, the history about it, more about what it could do for you more mentally. And it was then when I found you guys, I found Michelle,
I think
it tends to be when most people's lives take a spin for the better.
Exactly. And it was Michelle who actually not bullied me, but
Bully's the right word. I'm sure bully's the appropriate word.
Yeah.
When did you came to SBC in 2016? You joined our first ever group training program, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. So that was like
much at the beginning, and you were doing yoga then, weren't you? You were practicing, but
I was practicing, but not teaching
yourself really. And I think it was when I was coaching you one day, probably maybe 2 years ago, nearly. Probably not even that.
Well, because it's almost a year since I did my assessment, so it must have been about 2 years ago.
But I think you'd got your house, hadn't you? You bought your house, you felt a lot more settled, and you were kind of flirting with the idea, but your confidence was like, you wanted to do it, but your confidence was stopping you massively. So I think you get quite a lot of persuasion from me.
A lot of persuasion.
You the confidence to do it.
Persuasion.
Persuaded.
Yeah. I think every
persuaded
session,
Nate to get married as well.
He asked me.
Michelle's very good. Michelle's very good at persuading people.
So what just for people who don't know, what form of yoga do you practice or teach?
So I teach Hatha yoga, which is the more traditional style of yoga, because there's various styles of yoga. So Hatha yoga is where a lot of other forms of yoga originate from. But Hatha is basically just going through probably about 7 poses. You hold them for a duration of, say, between 3 to 5 breaths. And then you do some breathing techniques during the class. And obviously you've got the Shavasana at the end. Whereas you've got other styles. You've got like Ashtanga yoga, which is a more aerobic style. So it's more physical, more sort of like get your heart racing. Whereas a Hatha isn't like that at all. I mean,
would you suggest people do a mixture of the styles, or would you think they pick a discipline and get good at that before they move on to something else?
Definitely wouldn't start with Ashtanga yoga. Definitely not. You would probably want to start with something like Hatha. Hatha is suitable for all levels. And I'm not just saying that because I teach it, but it's quite easy for someone to join in as a beginner. But everybody's different, so it's best to pick a style. Just try different forms and just pick one that suits you, because people go to yoga for different things, so it just goes with whatever suits you more than anything, really. And
has your coaching evolved since you've graduated and started teaching at SPC or teaching elsewhere?
I think your confidence is the biggest thing that's evolved.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So when you were studying and you did a practice with me, and then when we went to your assessment.
Oh yeah.
It's so different. Like obviously in an amazing way. And
yeah, cool.
Watching you teach, you wouldn't think, because you're I guess a relatively new instructor, really, aren't you? If you think some people have been doing it for decades. But I don't think you'd know that when you see you coach, when you see you do the practice.
I have to agree. So like I remember when we went into the changing rooms at the college and I went to
sorry, let's speak up.
And I went through my opening phase with you, didn't I? And I was so nervous because obviously it was the other way round. You're normally coaching me, and the complete other way round. And I thought, oh my God, she's going to know these things. She's going to know I'm doing this wrong or anything like that. And I just got so nervous about it that I could just feel my nerves throughout the whole thing. Yeah. Whereas now, when I do like an opening phase, it doesn't matter who it is. I'm like, it just like reels off my tongue now. It's so different.
I think that's the same with any kind of coaching though. I think you get the confidence to do it once you've done it. And the first time you do, you literally just got to suck it up and jump in with both feet. But yeah, I mean, I haven't been to one of your yoga sessions yet, but from everything I'm hearing, like what Michelle says, the rapport with the clients and the feedback from the clients, everything about the class just screams that it's well coached. I'm not blowing smoke at your ass, Annette. I'm like generally being serious. The feedback I'm getting is that it's well coached. It's well coached. You've got a good rapport with the clients. They love coming there, not just for the yoga, but for you as well. So I think, like everything we do at SPC, I think it's not so much just what you deliver as a service, it's how you deliver it as well. It's important. I think by the sounds of things, you're doing that in buckets, basically.
Oh gosh,
thank you.
Buckets being a positive.
Yeah, yeah.
The amount of people that are doing it that have said to me, obviously there's many aspects that they love about it, but they're like, Annette's voice, just literally, they go, it's just something else. Just as Tom said, you know, you've got however many yoga coaches, you know, in West Sussex, let alone in the country or the world, whatever. But it's the quality of the coach and the type of coach, instructor that we have, that I think can make a huge difference.
Well, it's like everything, isn't it? You know, I think yoga is very accessible online now, and I suppose to an extent,
easily.
It's just like everything else. You could hop on YouTube and do a workout. You could download a program online, or you could choose to spend the money with a coach in an environment that gets the most out of it. And it doesn't matter, in my opinion, whether you're weightlifting or doing yoga. Yeah, you can't beat a good coach, and exactly. I think that's important. So, what have you found? What are the biggest challenges you found since teaching?
The biggest thing I've sort of found is making sure that people are getting from it that what I used to and what I still get from it, to be honest. I want to make sure that people go away feeling like they have had a yoga session, because I'm always doubting myself. We always doubt ourselves, making sure, God, did they have a good workout or whatever? And I think going back to the whole confidence thing, it's still there a little bit. But I think that's my biggest challenge, is just making sure that people are getting from it what I want them to get from it and what they feel that they need to get from it. Because I think with yoga, what you want to get from yoga is very different to what the person next to you wants to get from it. So when you're teaching the same thing to everybody, but different, if that makes sense, because of what they want to get from it. So someone might come along and might want, you know, just have a total relaxation class, but still obviously do the poses, whereas it's the person next to them might just want to have a good stretch. And I've got to make sure that I'm giving everything that each individual person wants, gets it from that session, which I find a little bit challenging, but I feel like I do give that to them.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Because with yoga, you're not really in a position to go around one-on-one at all times, are you? I mean, you've got to teach out to a room full of 15 people, whatever, who are in stationary positions doing those exercises.
Yeah.
Through training, you can move around and speak to people and engage and chat and catch up, and you know, it's probably a little bit easier to correct things. Whereas in yoga, you've got to be switched on, but from a stationary position for a lot of the session. I know you do go around and you kind of correct and chat, but it's just a bit more challenging.
Yeah, it is, and you don't want to keep those people in those positions or those poses for too long. You know, they're only in it for like 5 breaths maximum. So by the time you've seen like 2 or 3 people, it's like, oh, I've got to get back to the front now and get them out of that pose and then into the next pose. So it can be difficult.
Yeah.
But I think that's where your approach of doing like what you've done at SPC, the 12-week progressive course, so you haven't just got people dropping in and out.
No.
Starting point and then progressing together. Obviously, I appreciate everyone has, you know, they progress at different levels, but it's more similar, isn't it? There's more symmetry with them progressing. So hopefully it makes it a little bit easier for you to coach when you use that format, as opposed to just dropping in and out as and when.
Yeah, and I think that's what I kind of sort of said to Nathan at the very beginning when we were talking about doing this 12-week course. You know, he said about people dropping in, and I, you know, maybe someone who's experienced could have perhaps dropped in, but they wouldn't have got the most out of it had they been like for the whole 12 weeks. I mean, I know some people have had to miss out weeks for whatever reason, and I totally get that. You know, they've got a life and everything, and they've got other commitments, and that's fine. But yeah, with the 12-week progression, we've progressed slowly. There's been, you know, changes to the poses and everything, but it's been better for them, I think, and also better for me from a teaching point of view as well. And the feedback's been really good with that as well, so that's been a bonus.
I think that's where you've got to get people's mindsets out of treating yoga like a workout. If they treat yoga like a workout, they have this mentality of dropping in and out. And they think they've done it. They've got their yoga in. Whereas most of the benefits from yoga, whether you're talking about strength, flexibility, balance, mindfulness, actually, like everything else, come from consistency and commitment. So doing a 12-week course, like our group training, like everything else, is far more efficient as far as getting the best out of that. Because like you said, let's say you've got 4 people there. I'm there for flexibility, Michelle's there for balance, you're there for mindfulness, someone else there for... None of that's coming in one session. All of that comes with consistency, particularly mindfulness stuff. I think regarding the mindfulness, I think that's probably one of the things that when you look at yoga as a workout, that's the biggest thing that goes, is when they then go to the end where they do the savasana, which is about mindfulness and kind of laying in the corpse pose.
The corpse pose, yeah.
Yeah. So
in Shavasana,
they miss a huge chunk of, I think, what's one of the most important things about yoga, and that's the mindfulness, because their focus is get in, I'm going to toe my stomach, flat my abs, toe my butt, get stronger, and you miss so much.
But I think
it's
progressive
works
really well. Sorry, Annette, is that I think when you first start yoga, you have to think about everything, don't you? It's like when you first start certain movements and exercise. And so with you doing your progressive 12-week course with people, I think that, they start going there to learn yoga, they learn poses, and then I think that, and that's talking from like a recent beginner, mindfulness then kind of comes that little bit later when you've got confidence in yourself and the movements. And again, of course, works really, really well for that, I think.
Yeah, and I was literally just about to say, actually, having spoken to a few people that are coming along to the course, when we were back at the gym, some of them have said, it was week 3 or 4 or something, and they're just like, it's only then that it starts to sort of really sink in mentally. So it's going back to what you just said, and it does, the mental side of it does take time. We can all do poses, all of us can do poses. It is the whole mentality about it and getting back in tune with our bodies that takes that time. And hopefully, I haven't spoken to everyone, but hopefully by the end of the 12 weeks, those who have been there pretty much every week have found some kind of connection back with themselves with it, and it's helped them outside of yoga and perhaps in their other training as well, hopefully.
Oh, it's definitely helped them with everything.
Funny enough, that kind of...
At the moment, I mean, the amount of them, because there's obviously quite a few women from the group training that you also training with, don't you, during that are doing the yoga, and they said the way it's helped them cope with this whole surreal situation we're in at the moment, the isolation, the fear factor, everything else, they've even said, they're not sure what they would do if they didn't have that. Sunday, the kind of end of the week, but then it's like a really refreshing way to kind of free your mind to then begin the week as well. And I think that just volumes as to the type of practice that you're doing with them.
That's good. That's really lovely to hear, actually, because as I said, we're going back to like that challenge is, making sure that I give everybody what they need from it, and it's lovely to hear that they are getting that from it. And it's credit to them, because obviously they're being open to that, and it's helping them through times like this or whatever it is that they go through in their life, so that's great.
That actually leads us...
Oh, sorry, Tom.
No, go on.
I think the only bit of advice I can give kind of from a coaching point of view, and I suffer with confidence as well, Annette, as you know. Honestly, I get imposter syndrome quite a lot. Sometimes when I go to kind of in the gym and stand in front of 15 of you and go through a workout thinking, I've written...
You stand in the kitchen.
These 15 people are just about to do something I've created, and I get something like, oh my goodness, like, why are they trusting me? But the way that I do all of my programming is, if I was in someone's shoes, if I was in that group, what would I do? And I think the way that you kind of are kind of alluding to how you approach your practice is that, you want people to get out of it what you want and what you did get out of it. I think that's the best way for you to instruct, is to instruct them how you want to be instructed.
Okay,
and along the way in your journey of however many years you do it for, there'll be the odd person that just doesn't respond to it. I think for the most part, 99% of people will, and that's the best way to do it. That's literally the only bit of advice, and I wish I could always listen to that.
Thanks, Michelle.
Terrible.
But Michelle does raise a good point though, and it is. I don't think it's one of those things that, particularly in the fitness industry, and I would say that yoga is in that as well. Is that it's not really something you can say, yeah, I've completed this or I'm an expert in it, because things change so often and things evolve. And a new client represents the starting point of your coaching progress again, because it's a brand new client. So, you know, you coach someone for 30 years, you get someone in who's got a completely different personality than anyone you've ever been. Effectively coaching from day dot again. You've got experience with it, but the way you approach them is entirely new. So it's an ever evolving process, I think. And Michelle's right, you know, you put a workout on the board and you think, okay, on paper that looks good, that should work. Execution, fingers crossed. And you know, that's where it's harder for you, because you don't have you can't team teach. It's not really that kind of service. But it does lead on to why people would do yoga. So let's say, in my opinion, I wrote a blog today, and this is coming from someone who doesn't really do that much yoga, and I did caveat that in there. I said that I don't really stick to a continued discipline, but wish I did. But it's purely down to the fact I don't prioritize enough, and that's my own shit I've got to deal with. But the article that I wrote, I put in there, I basically covered it in strength, balance, flexibility, and mindfulness. Obviously, the mindfulness section, I think we can touch on the end, because it's a little bit bigger than the others. But from a strength point of view, whether you're an athlete or just someone who goes to the gym on a regular basis, to lift weights, to do various different types of training, in my opinion, doing a yoga practice, even once or twice a week, doing the asanas and the poses, I was trying to think about what are the best strength benefits from it. And you correct me if you think I'm wrong, guys. The best thing I can think about it is the general strengthening of underutilized muscles. So in particular, your core strength. So things that aren't kind of often used but not frequently focused on. And obviously, if you can build a strong core, that obviously has a carryover into other areas of your body and a general stronger physiology. That would be the primary goal for me. I don't know what other aspects of the strength training that you think would be beneficial from yoga.
I would say, from kind of an S&C coach's point of view, is the isometric, so the static posing, holding them. I think it's a very safe way to strengthen muscles, tendons, ligaments. Obviously, you're not using any resistance. It's slow, it's controlled, you're breathing, you're feeling the right muscles. I think that's why it works really well alongside lots of different types of training.
I was sorry.
No, go on.
I was just literally going to say, because as Michelle just quite rightly said, because you're holding those poses, you're contracting those particular muscles in that pose, those asanas that are, you know, targeting those particular muscle groups. Without the weight, you've just got literally your body weight, and because you're focusing on the breath as well, you're really breathing into those muscles and you're letting them go. You know, you're not holding on to them thinking, oh my god, that is so painful, I've got to really hold on really tight and cause damage to it. You end up breathing through it, and you just literally just melt into the pose that little bit more, so that when you do come and do, like, you know, whatever strength training that you do with in group training or whatever, you might find then that it just goes a bit easier and a bit smoother than perhaps what you were doing before. And it's
kind of like and also you kind of impeding overuse injury, because you are focusing all the little muscles that are surrounded by more utilized muscles more frequently. You kind of focus on all the intricate aspects of your physiology that doesn't necessarily get targeted by conventional training. So I think core stability, limiting strength, and generally just giving you a better awareness of your body and your muscle. Like you say, Michelle, we've got the isometric holds in the bodyweight beach programs we released for a reason, because it not only does it's bloody hard, but also carry over into conventional trainings there, because actually you start to feel the muscle you're supposed to be
exactly. So,
those are my mind points on strength. The next one I went on to was balance, and I kind of think that balance pretty much underpins all movement. Obviously, if you can improve your proprioception, you're gonna not only do you limit injuries, but obviously it allows you to employ better technique and better focus. And is that Dennis I just saw? I'll bring her in the background.
Just like darted across.
It's enhanced control of your body, which leads to better form and better, you know, technique, etc., etc., etc. But what do you think about that? Am I talking nonsense, or does that make sense?
Oh, balance. Yes. Sorry. Do you know what? I got distracted by Dennis.
Point, ladies. That's the point.
Where's Dennis?
I've got to be honest. That's the first time, and probably not the last, that I've been overlooked for Dennis. I'm shocked it's not happened before.
Definitely not the first.
I'm so sorry, Tom.
And it's definitely not going to be the last.
That's fine. That's fine. You know, whatever.
I think when it comes to balance.
Oh no, please, yeah, Michelle, no, please, crack on.
Now we've mentioned Dennis, I'm happy to answer it. I think with balance, it's relating back to what we just discussed. It's working on that mind-muscle connection, the control, the fine motor control of those muscles, especially the smaller muscles, the ones that maybe get a bit neglected, that will therefore then help with balance.
Again, it goes back to the mindfulness. I'm sorry I have to say that again. But I'm always going to come back to the mindfulness.
Well, I've got one more first before you crack on mindfulness.
Okay,
So if you're about to lay some knowledge bombs, hold on to it for just a sec. Because the last point I put in there that was physical was flexibility. And obviously, that is, I think, the one thing that people think of when they think of yoga without really considering it in its entirety. They think, I need to stretch more, so I'm going to do yoga. And
you have to be, people think they have to be flexible, but they don't.
No, and the thing is, I think enhanced joint and muscle pliancy does translate into better strength training because it improves range of motion and improves your capacity to strength train. But I put in there the caveat again was, and obviously allows you to strengthen and condition a muscle group if you can use it more. But there needs to be a healthy balance between strength and flexibility, and dominance in one or the other tends to lead to injury, or tightness, which could lead to injury. So if you've got like overly flexible, overly stretchy hamstrings, that's not necessarily what you want. You want a nice combination of the two, sort of like with adequate flexibility and adequate strength.
Yeah, so I mean, I expect there's a lot of people who go to the gym and stuff, 9 times out of 10 probably don't stretch afterwards. Do they, Michelle? Well, we had this conversation before, I think. And I think sometimes people that come to yoga use it literally as a stretching session after, like, cycling, whatever, running or whatever, because their muscles are so tight from not having a good stretch down after a gym session, that by just stretching out in a yoga class, they release. They're literally releasing their body, and they're just like letting go, and they wonder why they've got no back pain or anymore, or any like aches in their glutes, whatever, because they've stretched properly, and they don't have to be flexible. I know what I'm trying to say here, but I'm trying to get it out here.
No, I know what you mean. It's kind of like they don't have to be flexible, but they would be better if they were more flexible than they probably are, because it would allow them to get. I think if you're an athlete, if I'm honest, I think if you're an athlete and you're not doing some form of yoga practice as part of your workouts, you are putting yourself on the back foot versus every other athlete that might be, because you're not only applying a bit of rehab, but you're getting the very most out of what you have access to. I think if you're going to the gym and you just train regularly, I think that yoga would be an advised part of your weekly practice, again, because not only the flexibility and the balance and the strength, but also the mindfulness we're going to come on to. But from a physical point of view, I think there's no real reason why you wouldn't do yoga at least once a week. Absolutely.
And you know, some people don't want to get into the whole mindfulness of it, and that's absolutely fine. Even if they just want to come along for that stretch, it's going to massively complement what they train for.
Do you find, though, they don't want to get into the mindfulness because they simply haven't done it, and when they do it, they want to do it all the time?
Yes, it's interesting you say that, because I used to be like this. I used to think it was a bit woo-y, you know, a bit like out there. But when I started to see the benefits of it, I'm like, okay, so this whole mindfulness crap, whatever you want to call it, you know, it works. It bloody works.
Pile of bullshit, isn't it, Annette?
It is.
My jumbo.
Absolutely stealing a living. No, the section on the blog that will is the biggest one. Is number 4 on the benefits, and that is the mindfulness. I think most people, like you say, kind of they look at the workout and it kind of clouds the ephemeral benefit of really understanding that if you eat right, that's great, and if you can train the muscles, that's even better. But if you can quiet the mind, then you're hitting everything. So what would be, and I know this is quite an expansive question, what would you say is the most beneficial things, for want of a better word, because that sounded crap, that you can get from adopting a mindfulness practice, at least at the end of every yoga session? I think given the current environment, at the moment we're all locked indoors, people are probably climbing the walls for something to do, and quietening the mind probably should be higher on the agenda than it is.
Completely calming the mind, clearing the mind, and just bringing you into that present moment where nothing, let's be honest, matters. So what's happening in the next 5 minutes with us, we shouldn't really be thinking about. We're talking about this conversation now. We're thinking about what's happening on this very second. You know, people, absolutely, people are worrying so much, and I totally get it. People are worrying so much about what's happening tomorrow. Am I going to be able to get to the shops tomorrow? Am I going to be able to get food tomorrow? Am I going back to work tomorrow? Am I going to have a job next week? I totally get that. That is, you know, we're in a very worrying time at the moment. It's understandable, but it literally is just your mind putting these scenarios in our heads. It's not actually happening, if that makes sense. I know what is going on is happening, but you worrying about having to get to the shops tomorrow hasn't happened. Your mind's creating these scenarios that potentially could happen. They might happen, but they potentially could happen, but it's not happening now. So if I was to say to you, at this very present moment in time, this very specific moment in time, Michelle, have you got anything to worry about this very second in time?
Oh yeah, loads. Because
I think she means specifically in this second, in this present
this second, moment. Not like you've got, I know what you're going on about, but
where's my list?
Yeah, I've got a few things.
Gets out a novel. Yeah, but
I know what you mean, Annette.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, and I know that it's complete, you know, that's how everybody should be, but I definitely don't do enough of it. And I come from a family of warriors. I worry about absolutely everything, and for me it takes such a huge conscious effort, even the few times I've done yoga, to switch off. Like, I've got a very overactive imagination anyway. I mean, I dream every night 3 or 4 times a night. My mind is just constantly so busy. And because then the times when I do center myself, which is not enough, it's a complete game changer.
You know what? I think that people kind of get it confused though, and I think that when they do it the first time, they assume that they should just clear the mind, and that's never going to happen. Like, you physically can't clear the mind, but it is that in that present moment, and understanding that it's not. When people say it does, like I'm generally speaking a cynic regarding most things, and I would say that it does work, but I refrain from using the word work, because that implies it has a beginning and an end, and it's a task that needs to be completed, and that's not it at all. It's not like, okay, I'm really stressed out, so I'm going to do mindfulness today and just tick that box, and I'll use mindfulness when I need to use it, because in between I'm fine. It's not a temporary salve or a quick fix. It's a consistent practice. It's a training. It's a behavior pattern.
It is, and it's a constant thing, and it's, you know, I'll be honest with you, I struggle sometimes. Like last week when we were like was it last week when we were in I've lost the weeks, but when we were like in the first week of lockdown, I'll be honest with you, I struggled that week. I really did, and I didn't think I would, because I'm used to my own company. I'm comfortable in my own company, you know, and I give or take seeing, you know, being social sort of thing. I'm not boring or anything, but that's just the way I am. But I struggled by the end of that first week. I did struggle, and I wasn't being mindful at all, completely honest with you. And it happens to all of us. It really does. But I had to use assisted meditation to help me, so an app or something like that, to help me bring myself back to myself.
Actually, that's a good point. So what forms of meditation do people have access to? I'm just moving, by the way, because my back is in bits, and I'm sitting on the oldest, most uncomfortable chair. So I'm going to sit down here. But yeah, so let's say that someone says, okay, I want to do some meditation. I can't make it to your class, so I can't enjoy the wonderful 5 minutes at the end of it. It's the Savasana. I can't lie in corpse pose, listen to your voice. Where would I find an app or a system or a software to employ some meditation, and what are the various meditation techniques?
So there's various things. I mean, some people can do it by themselves. So you could just put some calming music on and literally just listen to every note. Just literally listen to that music. Go into a quiet room, put the music on, nice calming music, nothing like heavy metal or anything like that. Just like nice calming music, and just focus on that music. It's something that doesn't come naturally to some people, so it does take time. There are various apps out there that have got meditations on there. I think one that I've got at the moment, I think it's called Singing Bowl or something.
Singing Bowl.
Yeah, Singing Bowl. So it's got various meditations on there, which I have used over the last couple of weeks myself, actually. You could literally just like breathe, just focus on your breath. And one thing that I do find, some people need something to visualize. They can't just focus on their breath, so they need a visualization as well. So what I actually did recently, I'm just going to prop you up on my sofa so I can show you. So if you get your hand and you get your index finger with your other hand and place it at the bottom of your wrist. So I'm just showing you for the case of the video. Normally it would be like in front of my face like this. So you place it at the bottom. Doesn't matter which hand.
You're right there, Tom.
No, it's just confusing me.
The hand doesn't even look like it's attached to you.
No, it doesn't actually. Whose hand is it, Tom? It's definitely a man.
Mine, my hands.
So you take the index finger of your other hand and you place it at the bottom of your wrist on the thumb side.
Yeah.
So what you do is you watch as you trace your finger around your hand, but as you do that, you bring your breath into it. So as you trace your finger up to the top of your thumb, you breathe in. And then when you reach the top of your thumb, you hold your breath here just for a couple of seconds, and then you breathe out as you go down the inside of your thumb to the crease. And then you breathe in again all the way up to the top of your index finger, and you hold the breath at the top again, and then you breathe out as you take it all the way back down to the crease. And you do that all the way through, so you're breathing in, breathing out, and you're watching your finger as you breathe in and you breathe out. And then when you get to your little finger, you breathe out all the way down to the bottom of your wrist there. So through that time, you've literally just watched your finger and you're just breathing in and breathing out, and your mind has not been on anything else. You're just literally focusing on your tracing your finger, your hand.
That's a really good
simple.
Tip. That's so simple, but it does work. Literally just in that few minutes, that felt quite nice.
There you go. Some people need a visualization, because some people can't just like literally sit there and focus on their breath. They need something to watch or see.
So you mentioned a guided meditation. You mean something like a Headspace app?
Yeah. So a guided meditation is a form of meditation. So something where someone's talking to you, like what I do in Shavasana, when we go through a body scan and we relax the body by all the different body parts. So Headspace, as I said, Singing Bowl's one of the ones that I use. And it's just a person walking you through a wood, or like yoga nidra as you relax all the major body parts of the body, human body. I'm saying there.
Say body again.
Body. That's guided meditation. When someone,
yeah, so I think when it comes to and also this isn't just anecdotal now. I mean, there are scientific studies to show that oh god, I think I've just
you've stopped. No, you're back.
Oh, I'm back. Did you hear any of that?
Back in the room.
Oh, I just made a world-renowned point. Never mind. No, what I was saying was that I think that these aren't just anecdotes now. A cursory search online, you'll find numerous scientific studies where they have employed mindfulness and meditation in physical and mental healing capacity. So meditation has been employed in studies that have been used to show on physical conditions, so chronic diseases, chronic illnesses, inflammation, pain. But it's also been used, quite renowned now, for treating things like depression, mental illness, anxiety, all the things Michelle experiences before 10 a.m. It's things that but no, it's, in all seriousness, it is there. And I think I think if you're the sort of person that is busy, self-employed, or you just are prone to overthinking. I overthink all the time, and what happens is, unless you can get a hold on that, I think people who overthink quite a lot tend to overthink themselves into a slump, into a mood. So that's one of the reasons why I exercise every day. I make sure I don't eat some crap, because I am prone to spending hours. I could sit in a room in silence for hours on end without even really realizing it, because I've been thinking all afternoon, and that's not good for me. So I employ certain tactics. This has become a therapy session.
That's fine. Just lay down. We'll chat it through. Fine.
But I think it's important. It's without a shadow of a doubt. I think it would improve people's moods, and I think that
absolutely,
you've just got to give it a try.
Yeah, and it takes time. I mean, I'll be honest with you. It took me a while when I first sort of got into the whole meditation, mindfulness side of it. It took me some time to be able to switch off, and sometimes I do need that guided meditation, that guided assistance to help calm me down and help, focus on the present and bringing myself back to my body. And I know a lot of people don't agree with it, and that's okay. It's not for everyone, but if only people just give it a try, like you say, and just try it once or twice and just see how they feel afterwards.
Yeah, I would say so. And so we do 12-week courses, Sunday mornings, 10:30 at SPC. Obviously, you've been doing it online with Zoom now. What week are we in at the moment?
I think we're in week 10 now. We've literally only got a couple of weeks left. We finish on the 19th. And
then we'll be reloading it depending on the lockdown situation, the reload might involve straight into an online digital Zoom system before we can get back in the gym.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, and obviously you've recorded little snippets and little clips on things like mindfulness and certain stretches and stuff that I can link to the show notes here. So if people wanted to get involved in the yoga SBC and they wanted to know a bit more about it, what would you recommend?
Oh, what? As in joining in?
Yeah. Do they contact you? They go through our website, speak if they've got any questions regarding...
Yes, sorry.
It's all right, it's late. It's fine.
But one time I try and advertise your class.
I'm so sorry, Tom.
And you screw the poo.
I've really not been fair to you this evening.
It's a sorry state of affairs when I'm missing Nathan.
Sorry. Absolutely. Yeah, so go to the SPC website. There is a section on yoga. There is a button that says leave your details, contact us, and we'll get in contact with regards to the next reload, whenever that is.
Very well informed.
However that may be as well. It could be Zoom, it could be not. I don't know.
Hey,
I'm a yoga instructor. I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I'm worried about that.
I'll worry about it when it happens.
So to summarize, realistically, we can't think of a reason why someone wouldn't do yoga.
No.
Physically, mentally, and by the sounds of things, biologically as well. The benefits are abound. So is there any other last little tips, tricks, hints, things you would recommend people to do at the moment if they can't access? Obviously, the yoga program doesn't open up for another 2 weeks. YouTube, apps, what would you recommend?
Yeah, there's YouTube. I mean, no disrespect to the Americans, they're a little bit annoying with their talking and I can't relax with them, but YouTube. There are many actually local yoga instructors that are teaching currently on Zoom, that are doing classes.
One-off drop-ins. Yeah, I understand. The one-off drop-in kind of classes.
Yeah, the one-off drop. Yeah, literally they are at the moment. They are literally one-off drop-in, which is great if you have got a baseline and you know what you're kind of doing with yoga and you know the basic asanas, poses. So
course is what you'd probably recommend. Whether it's with SPC or not, you'd recommend a course in general?
I would recommend a course just because you will get more from it.
Okay.
Literally, you'll benefit more than rather than just dropping in, oh, I've had a good stretch, I won't do that again, sort of thing. You know, that's not yoga. That's not what it is. I'd highly recommend a course where it's me, anyone.
Just actually, that's a curious. What do you? Obviously, we're asked quite a lot about how we train. How do you maintain your practice? Do you go to classes?
I have done, yeah. Oh, I still do actually. I sometimes go to Hot Pod. They've actually been doing them online at the moment, so it's not Hot Pod really at the moment, but I do attend some classes. Yeah, I know the instructors, so it's quite nice to have someone else teach you sometimes.
Yeah.
For my own practice, I do practice at home, and it varies day to day depending on what I think I need, what I think my body needs. So it really does depend on how I feel that day as to what I do. But there will be some
a Lululemon 150 quid setup like this idiot.
Yes.
They can just get a towel or some open spaces for them to exercise.
Literally, you don't need to go and spend hundreds on a mat.
I don't want to talk about it, Annette.
I have yet to see this mat. I really do feel like it's going to be a shrine.
It's currently out. It is out. I have been using it to stretch. I've not been doing yoga, but I have been stretching. I've got a yoga block as well because I thought I made the very poor decision to go on a attempt to splits thing. So don't laugh, okay? You're laughing now, but if I can get my legs behind my head, you'd be impressed.
I want to see video evidence of this.
I was getting, so about a year ago, I got the yoga block. I thought, well, that'd be a good gauge because on its end is a certain height, and then you turn it on its side, certain height, and then you lie it flat, and you kind of just, and I was doing the front splits, the forward and backward, and I probably did it for about 5 or 6 weeks, and I got to turning the block on its side. That's how high off I got from the floor. Didn't rip anything, didn't ping anything, didn't cause any detrimental impact to my hips or any other area. But as with everything, it just came to a fairly sad end. But it is out there now, so I can start doing it again.
Okay, good.
Oh.
I want to
also,
hear.
the bags are sold separately at Lululemon. That's why it's so expensive.
You're such a mug. More money than sense, that's for sure.
Oh my God, you literally don't have to spend much money on a yoga mat, honestly.
You really, really don't.
You've literally spent the money on the brands there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you've been to Lululemon, but their sales assistants are incredibly informative.
I'm sure they are. Tom.
Yeah.
Yes,
he understands. He understands. Okay, so any last comments, anything at all, guys, before we wrap this up?
Actually, I've got a comment. Annette did a 6-7 minute relaxation.
Oh yeah,
didn't you? Which we put out on a post, and it's on our YouTube channel as well. So if you want to get started with something in this present time, in this uncertain time at the moment, that would be a fantastic place to start.
I will link that clip.
Yes.
At that point of the video, for people to click on, they can go and enjoy it. And I'll also add that to the blog that we'll put out next week.
A great place.
Thanks, Tom.
No worries. Well, this has been a very informative conversation, ladies. Thank you very much.
I'll send my charge over, seeing as it's been a bit of a counselling session for you.
Yeah, please do. You're going to get a phone call from me like 3 a.m. on a Tuesday going, Annette, I just can't sleep. I just have this overwhelming anxiety. It builds in the chest and then just travels up. And all I keep thinking is about Den. And
that's a worry in itself.
And you'd be like, no one listens to me.
Yes, the phone's just like down on the side.
You sound like Nathan now.
Thank you, Annette.
Thanks, Annette.
You're welcome. You're right.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye.